Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
She has no chance, and I've been talking to the folks here in Washington, and, this being Washington, of course, Hillary Clinton has a lot of supporters, as is, of course, Obama.
Okay, but that being Washington, but you're at the Take Back America conference, a progressive liberal blog fest. I don't think that you're getting an accurate sample of what's going on. I don't think.
No, there's plenty of Hillary Clinton supporters here. So, and anyway, the percentage or the representation is not necessarily what was interesting to me or what the Obama folks have to say.
Right.
But the conversations with the Hillary supporters are what I found to be interesting, and I'll probably have a similar one with you in a second. But these folks have drank the Kool-Aid. She has 0% chance of catching up in pledged delegates. She has maybe a 5% chance of catching up in popular vote. This thing is over, and everybody's talking about big states or swing states, all these crazy things that couldn't make a bit of difference. Momentum, there's 9 contests left. Who cares about momentum? We're going to be in Puerto Rico in June 7th. People are going to still be talking about momentum. Momentum is irrelevant. Math is relevant.
So I don't think it's a question of momentum. Hillary Clinton doesn't have momentum. Hillary Clinton is fighting to stay in this race, but she's doing a good job of it, and the race is not over. And the Obama people want to talk about keeping the playing field even, and we knew what the rules were in Florida and Michigan. We also know the rules are in the convention. You have to have a certain number of delegates in order to win the nomination. And whether you're ahead or you're behind or you're not, if you don't have those delegates, you don't win the nomination.
Well, let me make some important concessions. Last time you were on, we had this debate. I had it with Hans Johnson, and a lot of our listeners wrote in about it.
Yeah.
And I've now calmed down and think that a revote in Michigan and Florida is acceptable. Okay. I get the value of counting those votes, and
I'm glad you get the value of counting the votes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I was so mad at that there was already an agreement, and it seemed like they were changing the rules in the middle of the game, and that was pissing me off. And your point about, part of the rules is that superdelegates count. I fully accept, and I think it's hypocritical to not say so. I'm going to get back to that in a second.
Okay.
But the whole point of punishing Michigan and Florida was so that they don't get out of line. Now that they are clearly, if they go to the back of the line, which is what would happen if there was a revote, basically, in essence,
yeah.
Then I don't mind. Then okay, they were punished, and now they vote, and now they're relevant. And they're 2 big states.
Well, they're always relevant. I mean, that's the whole point here is to keep these states relevant. I mean, and to keep the Democrats are about making sure that every single voter is relevant. It would be hypocritical to them. I mean,
but
there's no but.
If Hillary tried to get them to count when they were non-legitimate elections, that's when I get animated. Because under no circumstances would I accept the results in Michigan or Florida as they are.
Well, I would accept. I would agree with you on Michigan. I would accept Florida as it is. I think Florida was both temporally and in terms of voter turnout was a fair reflection, and my hunch, and that's just me, of what it would have been like had it happened then.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we just then do an election where no one campaigns?
But first of all, there's an idea. Secondly, the whole idea that
surprise election, presidential election, right now.
Nobody knew. More people, if nobody campaigned, why was there's so many inconsistencies. More people voted in Florida than have ever voted before.
No.
Yes, they did.
There are 2 myths that need to be taken down right now. Okay.
Tell me.
1, more people voted in Florida than ever before. 2, Bill Clinton didn't get the nomination until June, so this is perfectly normal. There are 2 reasons why those arguments, though true on their face, are totally and utterly irrelevant. A, the reason Florida moved their primary up is because they've never been relevant before in the primary process, and the reason there was low voter turnout in all those other elections is because the races were already over. Second point that I wanted to bring up: Bill Clinton won in June, so what's the big hubbub about? But the primary dates were much further back in his election cycle than they are today. So the primaries didn't get started till later, so they didn't end till later.
You mean he clinched it? You're saying he clinched in June.
Right.
Clinching, and they all clinch in June. I mean, clinching and winning.
It's irrelevant. It's a BS argument. It's so to say, oh, this process is fine and we're not hurting anybody because Bill Clinton clinched in June and, maybe Hillary or Barack might clinch in June, is apples and oranges. Because Bill Clinton had won long before he technically clinched.
Correct.
And the primary system was set at a later date in those years than it was this year.
Well,
so those are some false arguments.
I don't think that this should just be given to the person who's ahead. I think, though, that it cannot be given to the person who's behind. So there has to be some way of figuring out how this can how this can be adjudicated at the convention. And
no, there's no adjudication.
Yes,
Michael, you know who wins elections? The person who is ahead. That's who wins the election.
But those are not the party rules. You can't out of one side of your mouth say, well, we can't count Florida because the party rules say we can't count Florida, and then out of the other side of your mouth say, well, he should win because he's ahead. Those aren't the rules either.
So you're going to make the argument that Hillary Clinton could be down 150 delegates, or even 100 delegates. I don't care, 50 delegates. What difference does it make? You're going to go into that convention and say, no, it's within the rules, and the superdelegates voted for Hillary Clinton. So Barack Obama, nice chance, but no, we're not going to give it to you.
Okay.
You're going to make that argument.
I am going to make that argument that is within the rules. Will it leave a bad taste in people's mouths? Perhaps.
Understand that
it may leave a bad taste
for the Democratic Party.
What's that?
You understand that would be disastrous for the Democratic Party?
We could get into another argument about what I think would be more disastrous to the Democratic Party, but it would not make me happy to have it happen that way. And I don't know that anything would be permanently disastrous to the Democratic Party. I think that if anything, John McCain would be disastrous to the Democratic Party.